Exotic gear is the building block of any player's loadout in Destiny. Now, when you start out, you won't have many around. There is going to be the free weapon that you get from the season pass if you bought it, but pretty much in terms of everything else, you have to hunt them down all on your own. Now, of course, they added some more sources for things here and there, but basically, they added a quick one or two ways to gain access to a variety of them just by visiting Ikora. Now, you'll be directed to or likely with an exotic quest, and it will take you through a variety of steps that basically run down to learn how to use a subclass. Now, in the case of an Arc one right here, it says basically get Arc Jolt, get ability kills, specifically of Arc, and cast 3 supers. And they also give you some tips of a variety of how to get into them. And from that point as well, they give you 3 of them, all of the original light-based subclasses. Now, if you notice, it'll actually reward you with a specific piece of armor, in this case, Dune Marchers. Now, when you also view the other 2 quests, you see 2 other pieces of armor that I would say are pairing, but also possibly just generally a good way to get yourself started. Now, if you actually go to your collections, it's hard to say whether or not you see them, but I can show you exactly what you get and tell you whether or not they're kind of worth it for all 3 classes. Now, for the first one you saw there, Synthoceps. Now, generally, this is what a lot of people have used to make really difficult stuff done by one person. So it's hard. It's definitely advantageous, but it's not in a way that I would really use personally. But of course, this is probably one of the community's favorite exotics. Now, what it does is increases your melee lunge range, but also improves your melee and super damage when you're surrounded. This makes a lot of people essentially just run up to a boss, activate a super, and do, let's say, 20% better damage just by being there and wearing that piece of armor. Now, like I said, I don't use it per se, but most of the community, that's their favorite thing ever for Titans. But then getting into the 2 other ones, Dune Marchers is the one you just saw. What it does, it makes it so that sprint speed is increased, but sprinting also builds up a static charge. When you melee attack an enemy, that charge will change damage to nearby enemies. Now, that isn't arc specific, it's not Jolt or Chain Lightning or anything really. It will just be a Chain Zap, sort of, that is a blunt kinetic energy. It doesn't really apply any sort of subclasses things, and I would say this is mostly for the Crucible and playing against other people guard. I don't think many people are using this one in PvE for endgame content, so if you're planning on playing Crucible and punching a lot, maybe use this. But otherwise, I'd say it's good to leave alone for now. But one that I would wholeheartedly say go for is Heart of Inmost Light. Now, basically, for all Titan abilities, if you use one ability, the other 2 will get boosted recharge in addition to either boosted damage or higher health barricades. And this is very much cascading in that you can use your grenade, hit something with your melee, and then use your barricade, and all of your abilities have a boosted buff that allows it to gain increased recharge and increased damage. It's pretty much straight up just a, I want more abilities and don't want to have to do much complicated stuff for them. It's use your abilities, gain more abilities. I would wholeheartedly recommend it, plus it applies to any subclass. There's no specific one that could get it, and, from there, it's pick and choose how you want to use them. Now, in terms of the other 2 classes, they are a little bit more neutral and probably not as effective, but I will still get through the variety of them. Now, for the Hunters, you will gain access to one Ahamkara's Spine. Now, what this is this is based on the Solar subclass for Hunters and makes it so that you have increased grenade, trip mine duration, and blast radius. So that means you have to be using a specific type of grenade to gain advantage of it. Now, in addition to that, ability damage in general will grant trip mine grenade energy. Full-heartedly, that is basically your grenades are slightly better, and you can get more grenades permanently. However, it is just trip mines, and in terms of most stuff, I wouldn't say it's worth using it, although Gunpowder Gamble and a specific asset on the Solar subclass of Hunters might have made that a little more potent nowadays. Then, as well, you have the 6th Coyote. This is possibly one of the general best ones of all your classes. This is the best neutral game in the way that it just gives you a second dodge charge, and that can apply to all 5 subclasses for Hunters. Almost any class or any subclass benefits from the dodge in some way, whether you go invisible, you empower your arc punch, you gain a knife charge you can fling at something, or you suspend an enemy, or you freeze an enemy. There is a large variety of options of ways you can screw with your enemies just by dodging, and this gives you access to a second dodge. It's pretty freaking helpful. And if you wish to go the invisibility and void subclass way, you have access to Graviton Forfeit for one of them. Increases the duration of any invisibility, and while you are invisible, your melee recharges faster, your weapons reload faster, and your recovery is greatly increased. If you're a fan of going invisible to escape the fight and just get a reset on yourself and dart right back, this is probably a good exotic for you, but of course, if you don't plan on using a lot of Void, then I would say leave it alone just for now and possibly get something more neutral. And then for the Warlocks. Now, I do agree they probably have some of the best options here of all Warlocks. And first off of that is Crown of Tempest. Generally, it makes it so that your Arc ability or Jolt Final Blows increase the recharge rate of your Arc abilities and will extend the active time of Storm Trance. Now, this is Arc specific, so it's more for one subclass, but it is possibly one of the top 3 best Arc subclass exotics of all time. Because literally, it's like Heart of Endless Light. It's use your abilities, get more abilities, and also because it requires Jolt, it doesn't even need to be abilities, as some weapons in the game come with a perk called Volt Shot, which essentially is jolting targets on hit, and like I said, can proc more ability energy just by using a weapon. That is pretty freaking solid. But then there are 2 others, one of which is kind of game-breaking, and Starfire Protocol. Now, what this does is basically, it's a little bit complicated, and there is a learning curve to it, but it makes it so that fusion grenades will have an additional charge, that is the Solar subclass Sticky Grenade, in case you didn't know, and recharge from empowered weapon damage. That also means you have to be running the Empowering Rift on a Warlock subclass. Now, what that does, it provides a area of bonus damage that will last for some 15 seconds or so, and while you're in the Rift, Empowered Weapon Final Blows grant additional grenade energy. And on to that extent as well, Fusion Grenade Final Blows will grant Rift energy on top of that. So it's very much a cycle of put down a Empowered Rift, throw a grenade at something, do damage to something, get more energy, throw more grenades. If you kill something with said grenade, you get more Rift energy, allowing you to restart the cycle over and over again. This was meta for a long time, was recently nerfed though, so I can't say if this is something to go for, because for most people it's a hard learning curve, but I would say it is good for the later game. But then at the same time, if you're running Void and like a Overcharge Grenade, Controverse Hold is the other one that you're offered. It resists incoming damage while charging Void Grenades, and charged Void Grenade hits return energy. Basically, way more overcharge uptime. Now, it's hard to say whether or not this is worth it for anything as well, because it's only for Void. And personally, I'm a Warlock. I don't run the overcharge grenades. I know I might be a heretic for that, but at the same time, everyone has their own playstyle. Everyone can experiment in their own way and find out what they like themselves. To that extent, that is all of the armors that you can earn pretty much for practically free by just visiting Ikoria and doing a quest by doing a variety of stuff. Not to mention that if you do these quests, it also eliminates a few options in the pool, because if you didn't know when it came to exotics, basically, you will never get something you've already gotten until you've gotten everything. After that, then they'll start doing a repeat so you can farm stuff. So the more stuff you get, the more likely you'll get something new. On that note, my name is Ben Scorpion. I will thank you for watching.